6 of the no assist here for IIRL. And as we can see, TD going all the way down. Unfortunately, we're getting some connectivity issues still, so I'm going to have to apologize for that. And I'm just going to leave that comment there, Snacks. I think I can let TD know his sort of skill levels later. But he looks like he's taking through this lap particularly well, with the first sector more or less nailed. And it's one of those tracks that really rewards those that can actually push that little bit extra. And it comes down into turn 6, but goes wide there, and that's far from the apex, unfortunately, for him. Shiver sets the first time with a 1 minute 9.3 in the Williams. So that's the overall benchmark. So hopefully we're going to dive into the 1 minute 8s not too far away from now. But it all just depends on what TD is able to do. Pretty good practice, so that's all good, hopefully there. So down to the right-hander, then the left-hander, into the final 2 corners where you dare not go anywhere near the curbs. You just got to get the right line out. DRS open way before the start of the banking. Comes round out of the final corner now. And what does TD do for a first lap time? It is a 1 minute 9.4. As JohnJohn instead goes fastest with a 1 minute 9.1. Adamski next to come across the line in the Haas. What does the Haas do as he comes across the line? It's a 1 minute 10.9, so be hard pressed to argue where they're safe. Mind you, Tidiest Bear does an 11.12. Ryan also out on a lap himself. Yellow's in sector 1. Ryan does a 1 minute 9.4, so very strong lap there. I think it's one of the AlphaTauris next, which I believe was my co-commentator Willow. In terms of the weather, I'm not quite sure, but it's looking dry as of yet, so I'll see what's happening in the Discord chat. We'll go on board with the AlphaTauri now for his run. And unfortunately, he's just lost the rear end, and that has not gone well for my co-commentator. And we're going to throw it back to the guy who also joined us in the comms box, but unfortunately was a bit of a silly boy and was put on the sin bin. It's Deflated Wee. So, staying in 4th, surely to just keep the engine temps up. So Joseph Hales as well also on an outlap. So it's got the 2 Mercedes on outlaps now. Willow, I'm sure, will be brushing up his tyres and going again. So we'll come back to him in the AlphaTauri for a bit. And here it goes again. So it'll be in the 1 minute 20s, but don't take that as face value. It's going to be quite an interesting one. It's not going to be interesting. It's only going to be 124. So weather appears to be all dry for the session. There's no forecast of rain. So conventional tyre strategies will be afoot, as they were in China last week. And Adam has... looks like he's crashed out of the race. He's crashed out of qualifying, so he will not be going any further in his Haas. Let's see what Willow does. He's obviously up on his first sector, which we always knew he was going to be. He's used up quite a lot of energy, though, in the first sector, but he's gone wide again! And that's a... He'll need a new set of boots after that one, for sure. As we've got the 2 Mercedes on the timed run now, so the Red Bull gets out of the way. And Deflated Wee even taking a little bit of grass there, but as you can see, that compromises his apex, so what? It's not a good start at all. 8/10 for the quali record. Let's see if anybody can get near that, as we have Deflated Wee coming across the final 2 corners now. We'll see what they can do around Q3, but he's invalidated, and he just keeps it out of the wall. Joseph Hales, TD is retired from the session, but Joseph Hales is the next one to do a time lap in his Mercedes. And that's the one place where you are so desperate to get on the power, but you take too much, and just like that, you get invalidated very, very quickly. No such issues for Joseph Hales, though, who we all know is very good on a qualifying run. Can he break into the 1 minute 8 as he comes across the line? No, he doesn't. He goes for a 1 minute 9.3 and is now in second place provisionally. We've now got Smaller Smiley in the Aston Martin. Coming around the left-hander now. Well, right-hander, sorry. And only 1 minute 10.6. So, quite a few people out there not necessarily cutting the mustard with their first time run. Greg, we're going to stay on board with Greg in the Ferrari. NA is definitely different. I mean, I tried a season in AT2 just driving with no assist, and it was definitely the hardest thing I've ever done, especially when that game was F122, and there is no such thing as traction on that game. DRS zone opening now for Greg. In a very tight section of corners here, the right and then the left. You just have to hug the inside as much as you can. 2 right-handers to go. Looks relatively safe on the on board of the Ferrari. For the long banked corner now. Doesn't look like it's going to be a show-stopping lap, but it is good enough for 6th place at the moment. So Greg goes 6th in the Ferrari. Flamingo Eagles next to come round in the AlphaTauri. And he does an 11.12. That guy invalidates. We're going to go on board with Prev now, who goes very wide in this McLaren. So, I don't know whether that's a preferred line or it's just a case of missing the apex. It gets on the power a little too earlier there, and the rear end tries to step away from him. Running number 49 on his car. So that holds great amount of significance. Down into the tight right-hander and into the left. It's a very good looking car, this McLaren. Recovered very well to beat Aston Martin in the World Championship. And oh no, it looks like my connectivity is having some issues. I agree, F122 was definitely not a good game. Prev goes 7th with a 10.4. Deflated Wee is starting his next run. With Josh currently 13th in the Red Bull, but on medium tyres. With Joseph Hales retires from the session, he's clearly very confident in his Mercedes. Let's stay on board with him and see what he does. We're expecting a pretty good lap here from Deflated. Let's see if he can hold on. .24.0, that was on par with what Willow did. At least saw that before I lagged out. This looks very tidy from Deflated. Oh. Let's go back to see what I can do for 720p. Into the top, almost gets into the top 2. Just a 10th and a bit behind, but it just shows how close it is at the top. We've got Flamingos next to doing that. So only one person's is gonna go out of qualifying here. Session. So it's funny enough, it's between the two Red Bulls to see who goes out of this qualifying session. Flamingo Eagle has obviously just done his lap, so he's clearly recharging battery to go at it again. But let's go on board with the Red Bull, the RB19, which statistically is the most dominant car in Formula 1. Driven to the brink, of course, by one Max Verstappen. And it looks very tidy there so far. But not quite hanging it all above. He's definitely giving a little bit of leeway here in the first sector. But coming down to the first DRS zone, he should be okay. But look at all the tyre marks on his car. So that would have cost him quite a lot of time. He's 3/10 down. So it doesn't look like he's going to be going anywhere further. Whereas his teammate, Josh, is just coming through to start his lap. So he needs to hope that Josh doesn't improve on his time. But Angry Corgi comes across the line now and only improves by 0.004 of a second. That was not the time that he needed. Rear end steps out there for all the Red Bull as he comes round into Sector 2. Oh, sorry. So that just missed my first sector time, and sorry, I keep ruining the stream. Apologies for that. Let's see how Josh does compared to his teammate. He's up by a second, so with this, the way this is going, Angry Corgi will be safe, but it's Adamski that won't be getting through. Even though his time is good enough for 12th, Josh in the Red Bull comes across the line and he manages to do a 10.3. So that means he'll be safe. Adamski... Adamski's not taking any further part because he crashed out. But Angry Corgi hasn't done a fast enough time, so he is out on his own. So we're only going to get 14 runners in Q2. So with that, I'm just going to have a look at the stream and see if I can improve. And with that, guys, we see that's the end of Q1, and we see the only dropout is, in terms of time, is Angry Corgi. And Adamski in the Haas obviously crashed out, so he is not going to be taking part. He's not going to be taking part in any further qualifying. Just to have a bit more time with friends and family. But it does mean I can do the occasional bit of commentary here, so... And speaking of commentary, we've got another round to get underway. TD plays it very cautious there. How can you join this league? I'll tell you what, give IRL Padge a call. I think that's his gamer tag. His name's Majestic. Or we could drop your name into the league and see what happens and see what we can do about you joining. But thanks for the message, and we look forward to potentially having you as part of this league. And someone who has been with this league for a very long time is TD, and he comes across the first sector do a 24-4. So while it's nowhere near the best first sector we ever had, I wonder whether he's on scrub set of tyres. Obviously taking it very easy just to make sure he gets the banker lap in. A very sensible way of going about it. It's really the end of the session or Q3 where you really need to hammer. Do we have a Discord server? Yes, we do have a Discord server. I will just let you know the name of it and I will pop it into the chat for you. Anyways, TD comes across the line. It's a 9.7, so that's looking pretty good. I think Snap... Oh, we can't give invites out. Okay, then in terms of how new people can join the league, what can we do to that? Is do we have to get them in touch with Padge? Who's next to come across the line? It is Josh in the Red Bull. Only managers can do it. Okay. So Padge is one of our managers, and so is Sun God. As Josh only does a 14 with that time. Smaller Smiley's done a 48.7, so looking pretty good in this lap for the Aston Martin. Yeah. And Smaller Smiley goes 4th with that time. Imagine TD will be coming in at the end of this lap. Chip is on his out lap. And I think it's one of the Alpines coming round, which must be Ryan. Ryan's gone to the top of the timesheets. He's coming around to the final. He obviously comes into the pits. Want the McLaren of Prev has set a time. Greg, I think is the next one to set a time in his Ferrari. 48.8, so it's more... That's a Ferrari comes across the screen to come across the last few corners there. You should be able to do a time, say around the same point as Smaller Smiley. So expect a low 1:10, and he goes for a 1:10.3. So, okay lap there from the Ferrari. Joseph Hales is on a time run himself for the Mercedes. Now, this is looking very exciting here because we know how quick he is in qualifying, and the helmet design looks pretty rad as well. Very quick on the power. You need to be through that banked left-hander. It's quite a deceiving corner, whereas you see in real life Formula 1 how they go to the outside to sort it out, and then there's a 24.2. A little bit of wheel on the grass as he went into that right-hander, but he's okay there as he comes down to the next right-hander here. That's looking very tidy for the Mercedes of Joseph Hales as he comes around the left-hander. These are curves you don't really want to touch. DRS open now. That's the first of 2 DRS zones on this track. 47.9. This is looking very quick. Could we see Joseph Hale break into the 1:08 here on this qualifying run? It's looking very tidy as of yet. Very solid final 2 corners here. DRS wide open as it comes down into the final straight. Does he get into the 1:08? He just does it with a 1:08.9. And that puts Joseph Hale down as the main pace setter. Shivers across the line and he goes into P5. JohnJohn next, I believe, to cross the line. Actually, no, it's the other Ferrari, beg your pardon. He's 2 tenths down on what Joseph Hales did. So let's see how he does coming into the first right-hander, then the second right-hander. Corgi has left the session as we come down into the next session here. Here he goes. And it's a 9.3. So just on par with what Ryan did. What's Josh going to be able to do? He's a few tenths down. So I'm not quite sure why he's on medium tyres. Chivers has invalidated. Willow has gone 6th with 10th. Got assist, but he's doing quite well to get out of the way, but obviously you can't go too slowly, unfortunately. Deflated Wee next to set his time. In the system, Mercedes. 1 minute 8.9 to beat. Let's see how he does. 24.0 for a first sector. That's looking very, very quick so far. A few tenths up on what Joseph Hales was able to do. Into the right-hander. So that's all looking very tidy, very straightforward from the Mercedes as he comes down into the first of 2 DRS zones. Opens up the rear wing there. Joseph Hales on a scrub set. No. 47.8. That was not on a scrub set. Surely not. Surely not. Oh, no, I've been kicked again. Been lagged out again. Oh, so sorry about this guys. Oh. We don't have that much time left in the session. It shouldn't be too long. We've got that guy in a Tyrone, so let's go on board with him. Actually, no, it looks like he's just completed the time. Beg your pardon. Josh is out now on a time run in his Red Bull. To being up on his best would be sort of a given there. Keeps it mostly in 6th, but goes very wide and misses the apex there. That will cost him a few tenths. It's far from the best we've seen, but will surely improve on his time. There's quite a big gap between 7th and 8th in about 6/10 of a second. So if he can slot himself in that gap, he should be okay. It's only 2 seconds up though, so not exactly looking the best for Josh at the moment. He comes round into the the double right-hander. Deflated Wee retires. The top 4 are retired, so they feel they should be okay. But what could the Red Bull do? It goes 11th, so he's not safe with that. He's going to have to go again if he can. It's Greg 3/10 up. He should just squeeze through. Greg goes across the line, and goes into 8th place within 1 minute 9.9. There's an Alpha Tauri next, I think, to come through, which I believe is Flamingo. He unfortunately goes 13th, so that could see him out. We've got Tidy Spare on a timed run. Here he comes out of the right-hander into the banked corner. He should just about have enough energy just to keep it consistent on the straight, but he's coming into the pits. I don't think he's going to get another timed run, though. But someone who is going to get a timed run is Greg. Same with Willow as well, who's down in 9th place. And Aston Martin coming back out. That must be Small but Smiley. Willow is up 7/10 on his 7th. Yep, IIRL Josh in a no assist. You are right, Grumpy. Woman 8.2, so he's 7/10 up now. This could be a massive improvement. This should comfortably get him into, as it is, about 4th place. Let's see, we've got a follow as well. So Umka, thank you so much for the follow. Sorry I didn't pick that up at the time. Willow comes across the line to take 4th position. We've got 2 Astons out there. One is that guy and the other is Small the Smiley. So we've got, next person on the time lap is Chivers. And we've got Josh on an outlap as well. He should just about do it. Johnny B, how you doing? Lovely to see you. As Chivers goes 6/10 up in his best, so he should be able to get into... It depends how much more time he can find in these last 2 sectors. But he loses the rear end a little bit. That's going to cost him a little bit of time. And he hasn't got much Ursa, so that's going to compromise his straight line speed. He goes 5th though with that time, and that was a pretty decent run, all things considered. The Red Bull is just going to get over the line. Willow goes 4th with a 9.2. Small the Smiley is next. 3/10 up on his best. It will get ahead of Greg, but I don't think it's going to be enough to get him out of qualifying. It all just depends on what Josh does, whether he's able to improve. Smiley goes over the line. Does a 1 minute 9.5. The key question here is, can Josh beat Smiley? It's 48.6. He's down on what Smiley did. He's only 2/10 up on his best, so unless he finds 4/10 in one sector, he's not going to be able to make it. As Josh comes across the final corner and they're coming up to the start-finish line now, what is the Red Bull able to do? And he goes... I think I might have just missed that. He goes 11th with that time, so he did not get through. So there we go. That is 4 more to drop out of qualifying now, with both Mercedes at the top. So we got Josh dropping out in the Red Bull. We got Greg dropping out in the Ferrari. Flamingo out in the AlphaTauri, and Tidiest Bear also out in the Alpine. Have him across the line. Just going to turn off any other apps there. Let's go on board with the Williams, shall we? Pretty tiny first sector. It's a 24.0. It's looking very strong there. A very straightforward and not too risky performance from Chivers, and unfortunately the game's lagging a little bit for me, so hopefully I don't end up dropping out very soon. First benchmarker time is due to be set by the Williams. As it comes across the line, he goes 1 minute 10.5. Smaller Smiley is out on his outlap, so it looks like Prev is the next to do a time lap in this McLaren. 48.1. 19.1 for Prev. That's a very good lap. But JohnJohn goes faster immediately with an 1 minute 8.7. TD does a 1 minute 9.1. Very good lap from him. Mercedes of Joseph Hales next, and it's a 1 minute 8.6. Deflated Weed next in his Mercedes. That guy is invalidated, so we're going to go back on board with last week's Naughty Boy. Yeah, there's a storm in England as well, Snacks, which is hurting my internet as well. 1 minute 9.1 for Deflated. Only good enough for 5th. Well, that just shows how competitive it's getting here. Smiley, a bit far out on the curbs there. 48.6. Aston Martin comes across the line and only goes 7th with a 1 minute 10 point. Next, I think, is obviously JohnJohn coming into the pits. We've still got that guy and Willow still to do a time. And there we have it, folks. That's the first sort of big round of laps done. It's what is a very, very short track. The Mercedes coming into the pits now. That guy is out on his outlap when we've got Willow still in the pits. He had no practice. I'm giving this no assist. That's very well done, mate. Very well done. Oh, and that's a... On one hand, I'm glad it's not a lag issue there. On the other hand, it's not a great issue for that guy there who need to scrub off his tyres. So Deflated has left the session, so I'm probably going to lag out in a second. Which is far from ideal. Well, let's salvage this lap from the Aston Martin where we can. He goes down into the first corner. Upshifts early to 4th. So that does compromise your apex speed. However, it does give you that little bit of extra traction. And this is the track where you need that traction out of the corners. As the Aston comes up to the end of the first sector, there'll be a 24.2. Goes on the grass a little bit. Keeps it within 6th and upshifts early to 7th. Yellows as people try to stay out of the way, and he just about makes it. Hopefully the Alpha didn't distract him too much there. I think TD obviously trying to be sensible and staying out of the way, which is all you can really ask for. So that got us a 48.2 for a second sector. As you can see, he's kind of lagging all over the place there. Greg, Prev is obviously coming to the pit lane in his McLaren. And we've got that guy coming across the line in his Aston Martin. And just like that, he'll take 7th place with 1 minute 9.8. So there's quite a big gulf between him and the rest of the field. However, the top two look like to be dominating at the moment. But next person on the outlap is going to be our own TD. Let's see how he does. Johnny B obviously showing his support there for Josh, which is always nice to see. Nice to see plenty of support. Which is 24-0 for TD. So that tells me obviously the setup's a little bit different. So people running a little bit more downforce than others, especially through this section where very twisty and very much a section where you need the aerodynamic grip to be able to take the high-end corners. But a 47.7 for TD. It's a 10th up on his best. So this is looking like it's going to be a very good time for the Alfa Romeo, who are of course rebranding to Stake in real life F1. And here he goes down the banked final corner, getting the shortest line possible up to the start-finish straight. That is a very good lap from TD to take provisional pole in his Alfa Romeo. Very good lap indeed. And next to set a timed run is going to be Willow in the AlphaTauri. 23.9. So that's the first person I think I've seen to break into the 23s for the first sector. If you've already done that, apologies. Looks very tidy there for the AlphaTauri. Yeah, TD indeed. I mean, I'm proud. 47.6. So Willow looks on track to beat TD's time. It does take a little bit of curb, does upset his exit somewhat. That's going to affect him all the way down the start-finish straight. Is Willow going to be able to do it? And he does with a 1 minute 8.5. That is a brilliant lap. And Prev obviously not on his best, so he must have had an off somewhere. And Joseph Hales must be backing out of a lap. Yeah, he's not going for a timed run here. Who's close to the start-finish straight that we can follow on the next run? 2/10 to the IRL record. Let's see how well they can do. This is where we find out Joseph Hales did it on a scrub set. That guy takes the first corner rather well. A little bit of a scrappy exit coming out of turn 1 though. Either that or it's just the lag on my screen. (24.1). He's a 10th up so far on his best. He's got to find a lot more than that if he wants to challenge for pole. TD's retired, as has Willow. That's 8/10 faster than last season. You should, TD, you should be happy with that one, mate. That was a very good lap indeed. 47.9, he's 3/10 up. So that guy finding a little extra time, but it's weird. It looks like a good lap, but it doesn't look like he's going to improve his position. So it's more of a defensive lap with that. But he comes across the line. And he goes 6th with that, so he improves up to there. And JohnJohn goes in pole position with a 1 minute 8.4, 0.06 of a second faster than what Willow was able to do. Prev comes into the pits, so he won't be going any further. Ryan has invalidated, so the Aston Martin is next to come through the pits as Deflated Wheat is 4/10 up on his best. He is on a blinder so far, so let's see how much time he can make. Unfortunately, Smaller Smiley has lost it. Dear oh dear, and that means we can shift our attention to the Mercedes, who is 6/10 up as a 47.4. A little bit wide during that right-hander there. And here we go. This is Deflated Wee, who was one of the favourites for pole position. It just depends on how much time he can find in this final sector. Into the bank corner he goes. DRS wide open. What is Deflated Wee going to do? Is he going to be able to slap it on pole position? Yes, he just does it. 0.08 of a second. Absolutely staggering lap time. Joseph Hales only 5th. And that guy is not going to be able to improve. Neither is Chivers. So while we don't get an IRL record, we get a brilliant pole time. Deflated Wee by 0.08 of a second takes provisional pole in the Mercedes. In fact, it's not provisional pole. It's full on pole position. That was a brilliant lap from the Mercedes. Staggering. A lot of good times we had, a lot of improvement, especially 0.8 faster for TD with a well-deserved 4th position. Well done there. Joseph Hales will probably be a bit gutted with that lap. I mean, 0.2 behind his teammate is only good enough for 5th place, which just goes to show how competitive it is on a track like this. So while we didn't quite get the record, we got a very good session indeed. So there we have it, folks. We have today's grid. We have... Let's just have to do a screenshot there. We have Deflated Wee. We have JohnJohn making up the front row. Willow in 3rd. TD in 4th. Joseph Hales in 5th. Ryan in 6th. 7th for that guy. 8th for Chivers. 9th for Prevanel at his home track. And Smaller Smiley goes into 10th in the Aston Martin, who unfortunately failed to get his last run together. Mercedes obviously with the best qualifying pace at the moment, and hopefully that will translate into some benefits for the Constructors' Championship for them as well. So at the moment Ferrari are in the lead with 10-10. Obviously I don't think he's racing today. So with JohnJohn 2nd in the Ferrari, he looks poised to stretch his championship lead. Oh, and here we go. The race is starting. 5 lights on. And it is go in Holland. A good start from everyone else involved. We who have Deflated Wee on the inside, on the outside rather, with JohnJohn on the inside. All looks relatively straightforward as they come out of the first corner. No argy-bargy so far. Very tidy start from everybody involved. So just got to get all of the right detailings on. Just bear with me, please. And here we go. Yellow's in sector 1, so there must have been a little bit of contact from that guy who started at the back. Willow's right under pressure there from TD, who coming up the end of the first sector into the long right-hander. AlphaTauri manages to hold on to his position, and JohnJohn looks like he's gone off. Has he? No, he hasn't. That seems to be a lag at the moment. Apologies for that. It's still looking very line astern. As you can see, a significant portion of the field all starting on the medium tyre, whereas 3 of the top 5 have elected to go for a longer strategy. And look at TD as he goes round the outside. Oh, that was such an ambitious move. But unfortunately, he didn't quite pull it off. A full marks for trying, I'm going to give him that. But unfortunately, that sees him top all the way down to the bottom of the field on the very first lap. Deflated leads, JohnJohn 2nd, Willow 3rd, Joseph Hales in 4th, all looking sweet and tidy for the Mercedes, with Ryan sitting in 5th, with Chivers in 6th, Smaller Smiley is in 7th, Prev in 8th, with Josh in 9th in the Red Bull, and Flamingo 10th in the AlphaTauri. It's a very, very close first sector there. It looks like everyone is starting to spread out a little bit as everyone sort of concertinas and settles down for the first few sectors. And speaking of TDs, making his comeback against the first of the Red Bulls. They go side by side, but he looks like he's got the move done. Angry Corgi couldn't quite hold him off there, and TD back up into 14th, but he's got a long way to go to catch up to the rest of the field. Yellow's in Sector 2, and that is TD yet again. It's been a very messy start for TD, who's had such a good qualifying lap so far. Tidy spare all the way at the back in the Alpine. So, at least for the top few cars, it has been a little bit chaotic, except for TD, on which it's just been a nightmare. So everyone in the field is looking a little bit closer. Fastest lap so far from Deflated. Prev is next up against the Aston Martin. He goes round the outside, but can he make it stick? Aston Martin just gives him enough room. And oh, and is that a moment there for Smaller Smiley? Yes, it is a moment there for Smaller Smiley. I wonder whether he's reset onto the track. I'm not sure if you're able to do that. Nevertheless, one Aston Martin falls all the way back and potentially to the clutches of TD, who passes him. As for the leaders, 7/10 is separating the pair of them now. You think Deflated with those medium tyres should be able to build higher than a 1 second gap. However, as you'll see with this game, when you're in DRS, it's very hard to shake off other people, especially when you're afforded the opportunity, rather, to save battery. Yellow's in Sector 2, as I think there's been another little bit of contact between a couple of drivers. Willow is currently out of John's DRS, and he's got Joseph Hales to fend off in the Mercedes. Longer DRS zone than it was on last game, so it just depends if the Mercedes can throw it down to the inside. No, he can't. And Deflated has gone off. It's all going wrong for the Mercedes, who has dropped down into 5th place. And he's just lagging there. Chivers has now passed him in the Williams, so as he tries to regain his composure, JohnJohn has got the buffer he needs. He's got that 1 second gap to Willow. It's definitely a bit of a chaotic first few laps there, as unfortunately the internet connectivity is not doing any favours for my commentary. As we see Ryan just right up the back of Joseph Hales. As there doesn't seem to be the best connected game here. However, the AlphaTauri hasn't quite gotten to DRS yet. However, Joseph Hales is right on the back of the AlphaTauri, and he passes him up and goes into second. So everybody on the hard tyres. So we've got 3 people on the hard tyres who are in the lead of the Grand Prix, and everybody on mediums is obviously behind them. So looks like the hard tyre looks on paper to be the better strategy, because they can obviously go much longer into the race than anybody else. As Deflated Wee trying to make up for lost ground against the Williams. As you can see, it's all starting to bunch up behind the Ferrari. Smaller Smiley gets the first penalty, and he comes in to retire the car. So that's it for the Aston Martin. TD down in 14th, trying to make his way up to the Angry Corgi. As Ryan looks like he's going to go past the AlphaTauri of Willow. Down to the first corner he goes. And the Alpine makes the move stick on the AlphaTauri. So Willow down to 4th, where he started 3rd. Top 6, a line abreast. Prev 2.4 seconds behind as well. Steely, how you doing? Oh, very good. Very good. And Flamingo gets a time penalty for speeding in the pit lane, and he's gone in to retire the car. Steely, how are you, mate? Great to see you once again. As we can see, everyone's starting to close up on the Ferrari. I was going into the tight left-hander, and it's so easy within the dirty area of these cars just to lose it. The fact that they're all staying so closely together, it really is a testament to the skill of all of these drivers. It's good to see Chivers up there as well. Now, is the Mercedes going to go for a move on the Ferrari? Comes down to the first corner he goes, and he's not going to do it. He's not going to go for a move. As you look behind, Willows and Chivers right up against each other. The Williams obviously go around for an outside move on the AlphaTauri, but it didn't quite make it stick. Deflated Wee not too far behind himself, but just backing off and watching everything and letting everything come to him. I'm very well, Steely. I've just caught up in the excitement of the first few rounds. As you look behind the rest of the field, Prev is currently under pressure from Josh in the Red Bull, sitting in for 8th. And we got Adam Ski sitting behind that guy in the Aston Martin. That's another close battle going on at the moment, where it's all looking relatively spread out across the rest of the field. Obviously, Flamingo. And next we have Ryan sitting right behind Joseph Hales. Yellow's in Sector 2, and that is deflated. Deflated has made yet another mistake and has dropped back to 9th place. So what was top 4? And Chivers has had a moment. Was there a coming together between himself and Chivers, was there? So what was a top 6 fight has now just become a fight between 4. So I wonder if there's going to be any trouble there from the stewards to look at. As Top Gun is promoted to 6th. Deflated Wee has now got the Red Bull of Josh to pass. That guy passes Greg in the Ferrari. So the Aston Martin eats his way into the points. TD is over a pit stop behind in 12th in the Alfa Romeo. Adam Ski is 13th in the Haas. Tiny Bear is 14th in the Alpine, with Corgi all the way in the back in the Red Bull. Unbelievable Jeff indeed. Jeff himself would be finding a way, or would be hard pressed to describe that situation. So it's really a case of who's going to crack, who makes the most mistakes, as everyone is virtually line abreast. And Willow loses the back end there. He might drop out of DRS zone. Thankfully he hasn't, as Deflated Wee passes Josh in the Red Bull. Looks like Willow is staying with the rest of the pack. Top Gun climbing up to the back of Chivers, who isn't making that much inroads in on the rest of the top 4. He'll be so eager to get on the back of them. And same could be said for Willow, who is slowly etching his way back to the top 3. Top 4 cars separated by 1.5 seconds and are all virtually nose to tail. It reminds me of that race in Haram in 1981, where it was Gilles Villeneuve, it was Jacques Lafitte, it was Carlos Reutemann, it was John Watson and Elio De Angelis, all nose to tail for the last few laps of that race. And funny enough, that race was being led by a Ferrari, which is exactly the same as this race in IRL, with JohnJohn, the World Championship leader and defending champion, doing all he needs to do so far to keep everybody behind him. Is the Mercedes going to go and move? Again, I think he's just waiting for him to crack at this point. Chivers is falling behind the leaders. So it looks like everybody is waiting until what happens with the pit stops, to which that point, that will inform everyone what their next moves are going to be. And Top Gun and Prev still fighting each other as he closes up to the back of Chivers. We're deflated only 4.3 behind Chivers. So I wonder if there was a coming together with those two. I'm not old enough to remember that, but I watched a lot of old Murray Walker videos, and that's how I remembered that race in Harama. Either that or I'm just a time traveller. One of the two. So we're coming up to lap sort of 14, 15. I should expect at this point either the mediums will come in should they want to go for the hard compound tyre, or probably stretch out to about lap 21, 22 if they want to go on to the soft compound tyre. It's feasible in this game. There is a little bit more variant strategy that wasn't there in F1 22, as Chivers is now really coming under pressure from Top Gun. Prev not too far behind himself and deflated 2.4 seconds behind Chivers. 2.4 behind Prev rather. So he's got a lot of time to make up if he wants to catch Chivers again. He's got to remain calm. He's got the Red Bull of Josh behind him, as well as that guy in the Aston Martin. Greg is falling behind, whereas TD just trying to salvage whatever he can of this weekend. I'm a wizard spot. I'm a what? If only I was a wizard, if only. It's just, I don't want to brag, but I might know wheel. Just saying. Or at least, wheel history, as opposed to actual wheel. If I did know wheel, I'd probably be winning half of the list. Guess I don't know wheel. Now, crew sheet. Top Gun passes Chivers, but Chivers is coming back on the inside. Oh, looks very close there. Can he hold on and potentially stay with him? But Top Gun slowly bringing himself back into play. It all just depends if Top Gun can close into the rest of the field. But these four, running nose to tail, are driving everything that they've got. Fastest laps vary between them by about 3/10, with David having the fastest lap at the moment. But he's got a long way to go before he can catch up the rest of the pack. He's 11 seconds down from lead. 4.8 seconds back from Top Gun. So he's got to hope for a safety car, ideally, to get through, to get back into contention, rather. As once again, Joseph Hale's playing it very, very carefully with going for an overtake. I think a lot of people are just saving their energy. Battery usage is so crucial on a very small track like this. Chivers is still staying with the Top Gun. But he's taken way too much curve there and he's gone wide. That's going to put him out of DRS for sure and put him into the clutches of Prev eventually. But speaking of clutches, deflated is now within DRS of Prev. He opens it there. There you go. But going back to the leaders, those on the mediums, what are they going to do in terms of strategy? Are they going to come in now or are they going to stretch it out? They're going to stay out for another run. I suspected that. As Chivers come into the pits. Deflated not too far behind Prev. So expect to pass within the next sort of lap or two. What's happened with the Williams? He's going on to hards. So he's going for the conventional one stop. So not the best strategy where it comes to the safety cars. However, it should see him off to the end of the race. Adam Ski gets the first track limit penalty of the day. I'll say we only had half the race before everybody got a first track limit penalty. Everybody's been doing rather well. Rather well to stay within track limits, it must be said. But these four are putting on a great show at the moment. To play, we literally right there. And Joseph Hales goes into the pits. As does Willow. So they must be going on to mediums to go to the end. Joseph Hales goes into the pit. Yeah, he's on medium. So I presume Willow's is doing the same. That has thrown everybody's race strategy into question. Ryan would be best suited for the end. But it all just depends, I guess, on when everyone decides to come in for their tyres. And when the safety car comes out. So see what happens here between the top few drivers. What are they going to do in terms of their strategy? Deflated Wee still right behind the McLaren, and he's not going to be able to move here. It's going to be a very tight right-hander. He's going to have to back out. But Deflated Wee, probably well poised now if he's boxing. He boxed for hards now and not have to worry about tyre wear until the end of the race. However, he'll want to stay out on track and pass him towards the end. So let's see what the top two do. I imagine JohnJohn has the luxury of staying out, but it just depends how strong the undercut here. Joseph is hammer time, so yep, JohnJohn comes into the pits, but Ryan is staying out in the Alpine. The Ferrari goes on for mediums. Joseph Hales comes round to the start-finish straight. And it looks like the Mercedes might just outdo it. Has he been leapfrogged? Yes, he has. And it looks like the Ferrari has lost out to the Mercedes on the alternate strategy. Now Willow has got to pounce here because tyres of JohnJohn's will be absolutely freezing here. You look and see he's almost pushing him out of the exit of turn 3. But that has worked out a treat for Joseph Hales, who takes the net lead of the Dutch Grand Prix. And unfortunately, that was lag there that just got in the way. So now, John is the one finding it all to do against Joseph Hales. With lower fuel tanks, you imagine these drivers should be able to get to the end. DeWee has now passed Prev and L. Top Gun has also gone into the pits. Angry Corgi comes in, but Ryan is staying out. So I'm wondering whether Ryan is going to go to the soft compound tyre. If he does go to the soft compound tyre, then he will be electric come near the end of the race. But he will have it all to do. But he's got to pray that a safety car doesn't come into the mix as Willow takes the fastest lap of the race. Deflated Wee coming back under pressure from Prev. Shivers now takes the fastest lap of the race. And Prev retakes second place from Deflated Wee. Angry Corgi gets a 5-second penalty for cutting the white line on the pit entry, but he's down at 15th anyway, so it's kind of a negligent factor. Deflated Wee is not having it, it's having it a lot tougher than what you would have wanted, as the McLaren goes all the way past him and back up into second place. A little bit aggressive there on corner entry there for Ryan on the right-hander, so that means we would have got yellows in sector 2. I wonder who's gone wide. It must be the role of Josh. On the contact, and he's hit Willow. That, unfortunately, is taking Willow out of the race, and the Red Bull of Josh. Oh, that's such a shame there. That's taken Willow ideally out of contention for the race. Adam has retired from this race. Joe Hales does the fastest lap, and that means that Willow's going to have it all to do. He's going to drop back from the leader. So there's quite a lot of cars now coming into the pit, including Deflated Wee, who's gone on to softs with 14 laps to go. He's going to be a guinea pig for the rest of the field. And at the session, Prev out on hards. So you think Deflated Wee should be able to make do with him quite easily, it has to be said. So it's looking like a fight for the win between these two. It looks like a fight between both JohnJohn and Joseph Hale. Since unfortunately Ryan's strategy looks like he's losing in time. He's lost about a second overall. JohnJohn 5/10 up on his best, but when is the Alpine going to come in? And he's going to come in right now. It's interesting to see where he ends up. Hopefully it should be ahead of Chivers. But what's the Ferrari going to do? He's going to try and retake the position. And JohnJohn goes back into the lead. Can the Alpine get ahead of the Williams? It's going to be a close one, and he has. So Ryan has got a Williams to overtake in the form of us. Previn deflated at it again. Prev with the harder tyres. Deflated has got to make this one count. Bearing in mind, he's got a lot of ground to make up. Brake marker boards are going up, and he's made another... And just like that, Deflated Wee finally dropping back another position. It's not a track where it's easy to pass, it must be said. Now, the curious one to watch here is Ryan in the Alpine, because he's got 3/10 to Chivers. But the quicker he passes him, the quicker he can make work and catch up to the back of Joseph Hales, who is now in DRS. Mercedes versus Ferrari. Is he going to go for it here? He's not. Playing the cautious approach yet again. Ryan goes up into third. Ryan in the Alpine up into third position as the other Alpine of Tidy Spare comes out with the pit in 13th place, a lap down from the leaders. Now this is the one. Now that guy takes the fastest lap. Ryan is the one who's got all to do, and hopefully the top two fighting each other should help him reel them in even more. Let's see how he does. He's got 12 laps to go, so he needs to take out over half a second to the cars up in front. They've already done 5 laps on medium, whereas Ryan has only done 1 lap on the softs. It all just depends on whether he can find the time. Really, sectors 2 and 3 are the ones where you need the tyre grip. As the two leaders, and you've got Prev and that guy fighting each other. The Alfa Romeo of TD up into 7th. And looks like there's been a change for the lead. Joseph Hales has passed Ferrari yet again. And now Ryan sets the fastest lap with a 1 minute 10.8. The two leaders once again scrambling for position amongst themselves. But they have to keep in mind all that time they're going to spend fighting each other. It's just going to help Ryan come back into play as TD drops down to 9th as Deflated has got all the work to do in 10th. And what has been, I have to say, a scruffy race so far for Deflated when he took a brilliant pole position. But the top two giving us a brilliant show up in front, and hopefully it could be a 3-horse race for the win if Ryan is able to close the gap. Ferrari is all over the back of the Mercedes. Blue flags coming up there, so must be a sort of a glitch in the game. Looks like there's going to be another position change coming up soon. Ryan about 5 seconds back from John. Very good exit there. And this is it. This is JohnJohn going for the lead yet again. The Ferrari retakes the lead coming down into lap 26 of this race. Joseph Hales has to sit behind him yet again. These two giving us a brilliant show as Top Gun has recovered to 4th place from passing Chivers, who was in 5th. And we got Willow not too far behind in 6th. Prev and Deflated both have passed TD and that guy. But it looks like Deflated has got his work cut out for him. He goes down the inside. And it looks like he's struggling to make that one stick. But still, Prev not giving way on those harder compound tyres. Why should he give them up? It's the whole point of racing, might I add. But brilliant stuff here from the McLaren to keep the faster Mercedes behind him. And Deflated once again having it all to do. But he has to keep his head cool above all else. Otherwise, He's going to have a very, very hard time struggling to keep up and make way to the cars up ahead. Prev is now 12 seconds back, mind you, so that is really the best the Mercedes can hope for. Yellow's in Sector 2, as it looks like TD's had another moment. 5 tenths now separating the top two. 4.5 seconds the gap now for Ryan in the Alpine between himself and Joseph Hales. He is very surely closing back up on this alternate two-stop strategy. He's going to be very fast as of now, but the only other concern is he taking perhaps too much out of his tyres, because the mediums are a more durable tyre, so over about sort of now they'll start to equalise in terms of wear, and more or less so in terms of pace. But this is an absolute balls to the wall race that we've got going on here for the win between two drivers, possibly three. It's going to be 4.1 seconds now, the gap, 4.5 to the race leader. 4.8 rather, as it comes round the final few corners. But these two give a brilliant show. And we have to remember JohnJohn doing very well to sustain the championship. The Aston Martin of that guy has been round, promotes T back up into 10th, but he has got that penalty. So deflated looks like the best he can hope for is going to be 7th place, providing he could catch back up to the back of Prev yet again. But it looks like he might have made a bit of a mistake. 4.3 the gap in the lead between Ryan and Ryan and JohnJohn. But what a brilliant show these guys are giving us, and what is a truly brilliant Dutch Grand Prix. 3.7 the gap now between P2 and P3. As you can see where JohnJohn's got the better car, it really is in the second and third sector, and looks like that's given him all the edge he needs to stay ahead of the Mercedes. Gap now is 4.5 seconds. Actually, I tell you that the gap is 4 seconds now between the top four, as Joseph Hales staying yet again behind the other car. As you'll see on screen, he might be doing just enough to bring himself at least into play. It's lap 29 of 36, and Ryan on soft compound tyres that have only done 6 laps is 3.8 seconds behind the leader, and it was currently 3.6 from Joseph Hales. Now watch the Mercedes and watch the Ferrari here. You get the sense that JohnJohn just that little bit more confident in this section, but this is a very good sector so far from Joseph Hales to be 3 tenths behind as opposed to 8 tenths or 6 tenths. Yellow's in sector 3, and that is Ancorgia spun around in the Red Bull. See if there are any other battles to be had on track. So deflated is 2.1 seconds now behind Prev, as the top two still duking it out. 3.6 seconds now is the gap between them as we come on to the start of lap 30. Not going to gain anything in the DRS zone, the Alpine. However, he is going to gain most of his time corners as these two consistently fight each other. 3.5 is the gap now. Slowly but surely he's coming back into play, but I've got a feeling those softs are going to wear out by the time he catches them up. He will have used all of his best for then. I'd say so far. Love a bit of defensive driving from Joseph Hales, who, or rather from JohnJohn rather, who is doing everything he can to stay in front. This man, Ryan in the Alpine, is slowly but surely reeling himself back in, but he doesn't look like he's made that much gains in this lap. He's only 3 seconds behind Joseph Hales, So these guys have got to be careful just in case they get a potential track penalty. Is he going to go for an overtake here? No, he's not. Gap stays at 3.3 seconds. Six laps to go in this 36 lap race. We are on lap 31. And it looks like, judging by the times, that Ryan's tyres are starting to lose their will to live. He's really got to hope now for either a penalty or a mistake by these two. Or probably both. He's 3.2. He's not giving it up quietly. He's trying everything he can, as Deflated Wheat is now 1.2 seconds back from Prev. That guy's closing up to the Ferrari of Greg. Gap now is 3 seconds. He's got to do just that little bit more just to get closer. Maybe Joseph Hales is, I think maybe John rather, is using just that little extra energy. 2.6, 2.5. Time's changing all the time. But these guys concentrating like you will not believe. As much as I love to switch to another car, I would gotta... Actually, no, I'm going to quickly switch to another car. As that guy looks like he's going to overtake... And yes, he does. He's overtaken Greg for 9th place. We still got Deflated Wheat about a second or so behind Prev. As we see the lead 2.3 now, the gap between Ryan and Joseph Hales. He can see them getting ever so closer in his front view. 2.2 now the gap. The Alpine is right there, and he may be able to pounce in the last few laps. It all just depends on how much time these two lose fighting each other. Hopefully, well, hopefully for Alpine's case, it shouldn't be that much. As here we go, the Mercedes goes down for an overtake, and Joseph Hales has retaken the lead of Dutch Grand Prix that JohnJohn has been leading very convincingly as of yet. It all comes down now to these last few laps. We got 4 to go, and Ryan is only 3 seconds back from the leader. And who knows what's going to happen. You're going to see JohnJohn staying right with the Ferrari there. He's only 3 seconds back from the leaders. Only 1 lap difference in wear between these two. It's almost negligible at this point. However, 10 laps on those softs is probably a little bit more than the wear that you would get on the mediums at that point. So it looks like Ryan's charge will somewhat be muted. It all just depends how these drivers play with each other. 2.9, the gap stays. It looks like the pace is steadily equalising. It's going to see another change for the lead. Ferrari gets all the way back past. And that's another change for position. It's a game of chess. When do you decide to overtake the car in front? 3/10 of the gap, and JohnJohn is back ahead in the lead. Ryan 2.8 back now. His charge has stalled by tyre wear. Looks like Deflated has also passed Prev in the first, probably in the first straight. And there he goes. He's now up into 7th, which is really the best he can manage. With 3 laps to go, which of these two drivers is going to come through to win? And I have to say, they are putting on a brilliant show, for none the least of whom is myself and everybody else involved in watching this stream. The worst time to end... It's the worst time to lag out the stream, viewers. I am so sorry for this. Ugh. What has happened here? I haven't got any sound. I thought position change, but we got tyres in there. But despite all the pressure being thrown at JohnJohn here, he has held on truly well, and Ryan hasn't gone off. He's still held on. Joseph Hales threw everything he possibly could, but JohnJohn comes over the line. He wins the Dutch Grand Prix. And what was an interrupted session. I am so sorry for the lag there. But the defending champion puts another marker in his stranglehold over the World Championship. Absolutely brilliant bit of driving there. As we see everyone else coming across the line. Willow very unlucky to be in the situation that he was in. Deflated Wee, unfortunately. And there we got the sound back. Deflated Wee just beats Preb over the line. That guy takes 9th and Greg not too far behind him in 10th place. Fortunately, Josh and TD just coming around to wrap up the finish line. But, God, that lagging out was horrible. But what a disturbed finale, it has to be said. And let's see who got the fastest lap. And it is Josh that got the fastest lap. He was outside the top 10, so he won't get the extra point. But once again, the Ferrari of JohnJohn takes another win and puts himself well and truly into the top places of the World Championship. And once again, the Anthem of America on the podium. And another win for JohnJohn. His second win and as many races in this season. The world champion continues to dominate this championship with 10-10 not racing. Deflated Wee having a scruffy race. Joseph Hales trying anything and everything he could. But the Ferrari held on to the pressure. And here we have, that almost brings an end to what was a very disturbed but brilliant race. And I have to apologise once again for all the connectivity issues. And TD actually gets the fastest lap at the end. So, these are your race results. We have JohnJohn wins with Joseph Hales in 2nd. Ryan 3rd with Top Gun 4th. Chivers in 5th with Willow 6th. Deflated 7th with Preb in 8th. That guy in 9th. And Greg in the Ferrari rounding off the points paying positions. So we have Josh, TD, Tidy Spare, Angry Corgi, who all failed to score, and Adam, Flamingo, and Smaller Smiley, who all retired. So that is it for this week, guys, in No Assist. Round 2 is done, and another strong race for JohnJohn to keep a hold of the World Championship. And I'd like to say thank you very much for sticking with the stream. We understand internet connectivity has been a bit of an issue, so I'd like to apologise for that. And hopefully, if it plays ball next time, we shouldn't see any of those sort of issues going forward. So once again, guys, thank you very, very much for sticking with us once again. And I hope to see you guys next week for round 3 of the IIRL Championship, which, just looking on the calendar, takes place in Brazil. Very fun place for a race, and we'll see you guys then. Thank you so much for watching. See you next Tuesday.